Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, on the question of the new Mass and new Mass attendance and encouraging those to go to the new Mass. This is taken from a conference in 1990 by Archbishop Lefebvre, April 11th, given at Écône. I admit that the Masses celebrated according to the new rite are not all invalid in view of the bad translations of its ambiguity. You have on that subject some explanations from the book of Mr. Saleron. Those are, in my opinion, probably the best ones which were given and the most complete. He really made a study on the Novus Ordo Missae, the new order of the Mass. It's hard to do it more perfectly and more completely than what he so courageously did. He is not afraid to say in which way the Novus Ordo Mass is equivocal. There are 3 chapters, one after the other, which show that it is equivocal or ambiguous, and it is clear that the Novus Ordo Mass favors heresy. For those reasons, the Novus Ordo Mass is a failure. There are 3 chapters which are very well written for us here. Also, his whole analysis of the Novus Ordo Mass and the whole history with it is all very well studied and documented and really enlightening. If someone is still adhering to the Novus Ordo Mass after having read that book, it is because he will never understand anything. Besides, that is why I brought it with me to the Holy Office. And then, when they talked with me about the Novus Ordo Mass, they interrogated me, saying, "So concerning the Novus Ordo Mass, how is it that you say some rather serious things against it?" They asked me. So I can assure you, they asked me questions. It's shocking. Do you maintain that a faithful Catholic can think and affirm that a sacramental rite, especially the one of the Mass, approved and promulgated by the Pope, can be non-conforming with the Catholic faith or favor heresy? They asked me. I said, well, here, you are holding the book. It's not even my words, you see, but I agree absolutely with what he says. Equivocal Mass, a Mass favoring heresy. So I also advise you to have this in your library, this book by Saleron, and to give it to the people who are hesitant. But even so, the Novus Ordo Mass, we know that there are priests who are brave, who are good, and who are trying to say it devoutly and well, etc. Well, read this. You will see. It is the Novus Ordo Mass as it is. It is not the priest who is saying it. It is not because he says it piously or anything that the new Mass changes. It is not because it changes anything in the rite of the Mass. It is obvious that this new rite is a rite that has been made only to draw us closer to the Protestants. That is clear. Finally, it's clear. On this subject, reread also the article by Father Boyer in the supplement of the Catholic Theological Dictionary. After the table of contents, there are a few articles, and in particular a very long article by Father Boyer, who was my teacher at the Gregorian University, who is now dead and who was very highly regarded, a man of value, who was for some time secretary of the Secretariat for Christian Unity. Basically, I think he was named in this secretariat to give a slightly more traditional image and to give some confidence to the people. As you know, Father Boyer was a respected man, highly regarded in Roman circles and among teachers. He wrote a long article on ecumenism, an article very well documented where he quotes some phrases of Pope Paul VI, requesting that we go as far as possible in suppressing everything that can hinder the Protestants in our ceremonies, excluding, obviously, what might be contrary to the faith. But I do not see how we can change the texts of our Mass and diminish them without harming the faith. It is not possible. The Mass is everything. Once we remove what bothers the Protestants, how can we say that we are not going to touch the faith? It is contradictory. They are unbelievable orders, and that is literally what is written by Father Boyer. So what do you want to do? And that's why I never will celebrate the Mass according to the new rite, even under the threat of ecclesiastical penalties, and I will never advise anyone positively to participate actively in such a Mass. Repeat, and I will never advise anyone positively to participate actively in such a Mass, because people are still asking us those questions, such as, I do not have the Mass of St. Pius V on Sunday, and there is a Mass said by a priest that I know well. He's a holy man, so would it not be better for me to go to the Mass of this priest, even if it is the new Mass, but said with piety instead of refraining from going to Mass at all? My response is, no, that's not true. That is not true. Because this rite of Mass is bad. It is bad. It is bad. This is the reason why this rite is bad. It is poisoned. It is a rite that is poisoned. Mr. Saleron says it very well here. Quote, it is not a choice between two rites that would be good. This is a choice between a Catholic rite and a rite practically akin to Protestantism. Close quote. It's a harm to our faith, to the Holy Catholic faith. So it is out of question to encourage people to go to Mass in the new rite, because slowly, even without realizing it, they end up ecumenist. It's strange, but that's the way it is. It is a fact. Then ask them questions on ecumenism, on what they think of the relations with other religions, and you will see they are all ecumenist. For the priest himself, the fact of saying this Mass and celebrating it in a constant manner, even without thinking about anything, about its origin or why it was made, this Mass turns him and the people who assist at it ecumenical. And if we are asking them about ecumenism, their answer will be, but of course, we can be saved in all religions, it's obvious. This is the new Mass, the Novus Ordo Missae. Of course, that's why it is said, in a positive manner, to participate actively at such a Mass. But we can eventually, for reasons as it is written in canon law, like Orthodox ceremonies, assist passively. So, for example, for a wedding, parents' funerals, or things like that, where we feel obliged to be present and we cannot do otherwise, we assist passively. We don't receive communion. We are not participating in that Mass, but we are doing it more out of politeness towards the people who assist at it than for assisting at the sacrifice of the Mass. Those are conditions that are already mentioned in the canon law, the old canon law. But attending this Novus Ordo Mass in order to replace Sunday Mass, no. It is better to stay home, reading and going once a month. Make the effort to go once a month and do 100 kilometers if necessary to attend the Catholic Mass. Like in the missions, we were visiting our faithfuls' homes 3 times a year. We could not do more. That was the average. This didn't mean that they were bad Christians. They could not do it otherwise. It is not an impossible thing. So we say, but am I not committing a grave sin by not going to Mass? Not at that Mass. It does not oblige under pain of grave sin. We are never forced to do an act that tends to diminish our faith. It's not possible. God cannot force us to do an act like this. On the other hand, We are seriously obliged to do everything possible to attend the Mass of St. Pius V, the Tridentine Mass, the Catholic Mass. There the obligation remains, but not for a rite that is almost Protestant. On the contrary, there is an obligation not to go. I'm a little surprised, Sometimes I receive a lot of requests for advice from our priests who are in our priories, and some of them are asking me, Your Excellency, what should one reply to a person who says that he cannot have the Tridentine Mass and who believes that he is under the obligation to go to Mass of the new rite, said by a good priest, a serious priest, who offers all the guarantees of holiness and piety, etc.? But I do not understand how they cannot answer this question by themselves. They don't find the conclusion by themselves, and they feel obliged to ask me such a thing. It's incredible. So you see, there are still some who hesitate. This is unbelievable. And that you will see will be mandatory for those who have left us. For the Society of St. Peter, for Dom Gerard of Labourou, even if they never say the new rite themselves, even if they have our convictions, they will be obliged to consider the new rite of Mass with the same value as the traditional rite. In practice, when they will receive the priests who will come to see them, they will be obliged to let them say their Mass and tell them, "Oh, no problem, but of course, you can say your Mass." This is fatal. They cannot do otherwise. Look at the cohabitation of the two rites with Father Lafargue. In Paris, there with Father Voyer. And beware, Father Lafargue and Father Voyer must not go tell the others that their Mass is bad, or say, "You must come with me, you must come with us." It is well marked in the contracts. The two rites are valid. Do not criticize this. So this is not possible. It is impossible otherwise. They are trapped. Extract from the conference by Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, April 11, 1990, given in a cone, about the subject of the oath of fidelity to the positions of the Society of St. Pius X. Part 2, about the Novus Ordo Mass. This is another quote from Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, addressing his priests in a cone, September 6, 1990, 6 months before his death. Quote, "Some people are always admiring the grass in their neighbor's field. They look to our enemies on the other side. After all, they say, we must be charitable, we must be kind, we must not be divisive. After all, they are celebrating the Tridentine Mass. They are not as bad as everyone says they are. But they are betraying us. They are shaking hands with the Church's destroyers. They are shaking hands with people holding modernist and liberal ideas condemned by the Church. So they are doing the devil's work. They are now saying, so long as they grant us the old Mass, we can shake hands with Rome, no problem. But we are seeing how it works out. They are in an impossible situation. Impossible. One cannot both shake hands with modernists and keep following tradition. Not possible. It is not possible. Now, stay in touch with them to bring them back, to convert them to tradition. Yes, if you like, that's the right kind of ecumenism. But to give the impression that after all one must almost regrets any break, that one likes talking to them, no way. Unbelievable, unimaginable. What kind of relations can you have with people like that? This is what causes us a problem with certain lay folk who have a kind of deep down regret that they are no longer with the people they used to be with. It's a pity we are divided, they say. Why not meet up with them? Let's go and have a drink together. Reach out a hand to them. That's a betrayal. Those saying this give the impression that at the drop of a hat they would cross over and join those who left us. They must make up their minds. They must make up their minds. Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, September 6th, 1990.